Hi there, thanks for stopping by. In today's video we're going to look at a couple of the urchins from the Seashell Looms kit. I know that there's been a little bit of confusion on which threads to wrap, so let's clear that up. So let's get started. The first one I'm going to show you is Urchin 5A, which uses warping method 1 on Loom 5. Okay, now I'm going to use an urchin-like color, just so that hopefully you'll be able to see more clearly what I'm doing. So we're going to start off by putting the end of our thread. I'm using a number 8 cotton perle at the moment. Putting the end of the thread through the center of the loom, and I'm just going to put a piece of tape to hold it down. Just makes life a little bit easier. So you're going to come up and go around tab 1. Now tab 1 can be any tab that you want it to be, really. Doesn't matter. But basically, the second one that you need to wrap is tab 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now, as you can see, this is very much off center. So what you probably wouldn't normally do on a circular loom. Next, we're going to go all of the way around, filling every single tab, but by skipping a tab. So 1, then 3, and so on, okay? And likewise, you will skip in this direction. I find it easier, particularly because it's off center, to actually rotate the disc as you go. So that is now every tab covered. And so we need to now cut a long length of the thread and thread that onto a needle. And try not to wreck everything on your desk at the same time. Now, the instructions tell you to work rounding backstitch, RBS, to the edge, working over 2 warp threads, those between the tabs. Now, the first thing that I find that's quite easy is to go work underneath, just so that I can see that it's at the center, but you don't need to. You can just sort of put it in anywhere, but I just find that if I go underneath to come up just about anywhere, you're not really going to notice it, but you want to just tuck that end thread somewhere. Okay, so now we have to work the rounding back stitches. So between the tabs means the 2 threads that are in between the depression, the valley of the tabs, okay? And each, although the way that the wrap has been, some of them are spread further apart and some of them are closer together, these are still the ones that you want to do. You can push these in towards the center or keep them sort of where they naturally sit, which will create a different look for your urchin. So rounding back stitch. So I come back around And there I'm going through under those two. And I'm going to push this down just a little bit. Okay, so I've gone back around. I need to go under the next two, back around, under the next two. So it's basically the same thing as when you're working on Dorset button. And the first row is going to be to establish everything, so it may take you a little bit of time to get that all in. But by working that spiral the way that we did, it means that not only do you have the hole in the center, but the uncovered threads will have a sort of swirly effect as well, which is quite nice. So I'm going to keep going and work one row of rounding back stitches so you can see what I mean. So there is one row worked. Over here I caught the spoke a little bit, so I can't quite push that down really far. But as you can see, I have pushed in to make sort of a nice circle, okay? So I'm going to carry on working the rounding back stitches just as I would with a Dorset button from the center working out. I think this is as far as I will go on this particular one. I could go a little bit further, but it doesn't really matter. When I'm working any of the round weaving, I do like to finish off with a little bit of a knot. I do this with my Yorkshires as well, just to make sure that everything holds, and then I can still use this piece of thread for the next part. Now, as you'll see, it doesn't look as closed up as the illustration in the actual booklet, and that's because everything is stretched out on the loom. So let's take this off and just flick to take those loops off of the tabs. And automatically everything starts to sort of close up a little. So to finish it, you can go ahead and use the crochet edge if you wish, or if you're just making up a ball shape, you can just go in and out of each of the loops, again in the same way as you would for a Yorkshire button. To give you a nice shape so that you can gather it up and make it a nice circular shape. Now, of course, I'm showing you the ribbed side. So that will give that type of urchin, but you could, if you wanted to, pop it in the other way and have the hole, the central hole, and a smooth faced urchin that you could then decorate with other things, but I do like this one. And then I just need to gather that up, and then you can stuff that however you wish, applique it onto something, and you have your nice little urchin with a little hole in the center, because that's what urchins seem to have when you collect them. So now I'm just going to finish this off a little bit. There we go. Because I quite like the shape of that one. For urchins 5B and 5C, you've got exactly the same set up. So warping method 1. But the first instruction before we start working the RBS, or rounding back stitch, is to wrap over the center threads. Okay, so this gives a little bit more dimension to those center threads. And it will also help you if you wrap where a tab is. So say I take this one back, I'm going under, there's a tab, and then I'm going to go under again at that tab, wrap around. Now try to keep your wraps fairly consistent in size, and you can go over it as many times as you wish as well. So what's happening now is we're kind of incorporating Knopf button techniques as well now. But of course those tabs hold everything in place, which makes it a little bit easier than those. So basically what you're doing with this particular technique is that you are creating sort of a thicker area and defining that central hole more. Now you can wrap this quite a few times, and you can wrap it sort of quite loosely if you wish, to really sort of emphasize it. You can go over a couple of times. You can sort of do it a little bit more angled if you wish. Each thing that you do will create a different look. Now I do suggest that for 5B you wrap, that's just wrap as you wish, and that in 5C to loosely wrap this. And that's just basically to create a different look, but you could combine a tight wrap with the stitches for 5C. It's entirely up to you. And you can really sort of fill this up and make it quite dense. And then when you're quite happy, go ahead and work your rounding back stitches as before. So I've completed the rounding back stitch, and again, as with the previous urchin, everything's stretched out at the moment. So I've worked my little knot. I will take my loops off of the tabs. And let everything sort of relax a little bit. And now, as before, I'm just going to gather up. So I'm just going through and gathering up the loops as before. So this one has quite a large hole, and if you still wanted that to be smaller again, you could go ahead and wrap some more. It's simply because of the tightness that I worked the initial wraps, kept the hole opened out as opposed to doing a looser look. And so that is basically how you work the urchins on that unusual warping method 1. So I hope you found these helpful, and if so, I'd appreciate it if you would click like and hit subscribe if you want to see more, and do leave me a comment. I am trying to work through quite a few of the different seashells and show you how to do the different items. So I can't guarantee that the next video will be from this kit again, but in the meantime, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.